Yeah, my name's Philip Kevin Paul. I live on the Hushchashach side of Setnich. My father was the late Philip Christopher Paul, co-founder of the Union BC of Indian Chiefs and co-founder of the National Indian Brotherhood, which is now the AFN. My mother was Frances Elliott, who was equally wise and beautiful as my father. I go by Kevin because my dad didn't want a junior. In his words, he didn't want there to be anyone who had to live up to or live down to his name. And when he said that, he really meant it because when he was a young man, he drank heavily. His name wasn't well thought of, but when he became sober and a leader, he made a large impact on natives across Canada. My education, I graduated high school, went to the university transfer program at Molson College and graduated with my bachelor's at the University of Victoria and went on to do my master's. My undergrad was a double major in English and writing. My master's, I was the very first writing student at UVic to get a master's in fine arts. I worked as a waiter for a long time and have a love for really good restaurants. As a young guy, being a server was my favorite thing. I was an amateur boxer, competing at a very high level. I was also a rugby player. Other work experience related to the work I'm doing now, where I was the Sanchothan and English instructor at an adult education center here in Hushchashach. After that, I started as the literacy teacher, teaching. My oldest student was 82 and my youngest was 19. After that was done, I taught at the University of Victoria in the writing and linguistics department, as well as occasionally in the English department. While I was doing my master's studies, I also taught 4 classes in the writing department. After that, I was hired for more work and taught many classes through UVic, Camosun, and been writer in residence at many universities across Canada. And that more or less lands me here in the Saanich Leadership Council as the laws writer, trying to relay the foundation of which Saanich people are and we're trying to be. My role at this point is a little bit unclear. In the beginning, they wanted me to write laws, write down the laws, speak with the elders, have them talk about our laws. But very quickly, that process became abstract. So what I started doing, because I had at the same time a contract with what used to be called the Saanich Indian School Board, is now called the Husetnich School Board. And the Husetnich School Board was hired there to translate the traditional stories that have been taped, but haven't yet been transcribed in English or in Sanchothan. So you get them out of spoken Sanchothan into written Sanchothan, translate them into English. And now once they're translated, and the Sanchothan versions are all very truncated and come across more like summaries of our stories. And so then my job was to breathe some life back in them, keeping the heart of Saanich in them. And so I asked the elders if they would help me with that. I would bring them Sanchothan translation and they would help me get it into English. And then I would bring them back my English rewritten version, which was longer. We edited the English version and then we bring it back to the elders and me and the elders put them back into Sanchothan. What happened through that is I found out the more we were talking about specific Saanich stuff like that, they would start talking law. Now we have names for the laws on Sanchothan articulation and Saanich translation. This is what's become my work right now, is the story, talking to the elders, and while they start talking to each other and ignoring me, writing down what they're saying. What I want more than anything else when dealing with my elders is their trust, is their trust, and for them to feel that they're in good hands when they speak to me. So having people feel that safe around me and be that trusting of me is really important and feels really special. I wouldn't mind building an irresistible precedent of how cultures can move comfort from orality to literacy, and how people can actually rebuild from what we know to be the people we already are. They know more about what it is to be a Saanich person than they know. I used to play in a band and I like to write songs and stuff, but I haven't played for years. I'm starting to play again. I suffer from depression and anxiety. I lost my parents at age 21 and age 26 I was. And that's when those struggles came on. They kind of ruined the end of my boxing days. I kept boxing until I was 33, but the spirit in me was gone. So having just come out of a recent depression, a breakup, my dog died, and then COVID hit, and I just sunk in depression. So I don't know what I do these days. And the thing to remember is not to be too hard on yourself about that stuff. It's like I tell when I sit with, because I have sat with depressed youth and spoke with them, and usually their lots of the depression comes from social anxieties. And I says, the thing to remember about this kind of depression is that all those people have on you is an opinion. That's all. But the other thing to remember is all you have in yourself about yourself is an opinion. So whatever you're telling yourself about you might be untrue. That's usually in my opening dialogue with these young people who are sent here by their parents to talk to me. I was a very early on person to be a person who talked very openly about depression. about anxiety. And all my family knew this about me, that I was depressed, because I didn't hide it, and I spoke about it, and it just brought me better treatment from my family, and more understanding treatment. Like, what's Kevin doing? He's got all these talents. What's he doing with it? You know, does he ever come out of the house? They weren't like that anymore. They were bringing me food. They were picking me up to drive them down to dinners at their house. There, it was a wonderful time in life that could have otherwise been quite disastrous.